All right. Well, everyone, we're gonna call to order this meeting at 6:32 p.m. Perfect. Hi, thank you for being here. We thoroughly appreciate it. I have a few remarks, overview since the last time that I wanted to share with you all. First of all, again, warm thank you for stepping into the work that we're doing as volunteers. It's very important what we're doing for the city, and I think that when we all show up with a collaborative framework with ideas, I think this is going to be a great time for all of us. Even though, it's taking some time from family or maybe other activities that you have planned. I really hope that as we continue meeting in this, that it allows us to create a good group, good teamwork, and that we're able to make some great suggestions for our city officials to take action on. First, I wanted to go over length and frequency of the meetings. So we are going to aim to keep these meetings under 2.5 hours. That's the goal, to go up to 2.5 hours max. That puts us at around 9 p.m. maximum. But some days we might go shorter, or according to the agenda, if we're over the discussion topics, then we'll get through that. We get through it faster, great, we get out early. But if you're feeling like there is maybe one day we're going an hour and a half and it's been too dense, that's okay too. We can stop. There's no reason for us to go further if we don't feel like we're actually getting things done, or we went through maybe a very difficult section. Our goal, as we recap, as we talked about last time, is to go through this in sequential manner. So go through the charter in sequential manner. We talked with Colleen and with Phil about probably over the next 4 meetings. So these next 4 meetings during this year, this one plus 3 more, to sit with the language, with the intent, what the charter says, and to study it, to understand it well. And there might be some suggestions that we're going to maybe come to, maybe some ideas that we have, but we're gonna put it on like a parking lot, just kind of like, hey, it's gonna be there, but we're not going to go into like the spreadsheet and actually get to the majority suggestion and the minority suggestion until the next set of 4. So we think about 8 meetings after talking with Pauline and Phil. We think 8 meetings is sufficient. 4 to understand, to bring any questions or anything that kind of came up, and then 4 to give suggestions, to get into the ideas. Looking ahead, we are hoping to today kind of decide on whether we want to have a meeting in December or not. And if we don't, we can think about 2 meetings in November, or, kind of like spreading them out. 1 in November?
It would be 2 in October.
2 in October, that's what it was, and 1 early November. But we'll get to that point and towards the end. We just wanted to chat about that. Does anybody object to that? We could start working on that. If you don't object, that's okay. We'll schedule probably 2 in October, 1 in early November, and that way, holiday season, travels, you can do all of the marvelous things that we need to.
I would just request that if there are any, we of course are going to try and keep these on Thursday nights if we can. But if there are any particular weeks or days that don't work for you in the first couple of weeks of November, you could let me know. The chances of getting all 14 relatively slim, but we'll look at dates that work for most. Just so we can get something scheduled. And the same for October, since we are looking to schedule 2 meetings in October, we will have our regularly scheduled one in October, but then if there are weeks that don't work, just let me know, and the sooner the better, because I know people do plan travel, they have people come in during holidays, things like that. And so the earlier we can kind of firm up those dates, then we have, yes.
I would like to add just, October 18th is the Littleton Public Schools fall break.
Okay,
So I think that's probably gonna be on a lot of our minds.
okay.
I'm not gonna be here then, and a number of others are, so we may want to consider a different date, but I don't know.
And we could certainly consider two separate dates in October. But yeah, if you can email me with those kinds of things, then the chair and vice chair and I can kind of look at that and make a determination. We also could look at, for those additional meetings, if it makes sense to move them out of the evening and earlier in the day, we can do that as well. But trying to stay consistent with that 6:30 timeframe on similar nights, I think is important.
Could you give us an email with some options rather than just
Mhm.
leaving it wide open?
I can do that.
Any other comments? Okay. Final things we did not want to miss is any question that you have about the charter or process or any section that we're going through, they go to Colleen. She will be handling and collecting them and then finding the answers as promptly as possible. We are hoping, well, that the agendas will be released 1 week prior. So, past Thursday, you receive the agenda. And if you can get your questions in by Monday.
Even Tuesday would be okay. Monday is preferable, like by noon on Monday. That gives us time to reach out to particular department heads, legal, the city manager's office, and ask for responses. Then I can compile all the questions that come from individuals with all the answers, and then you all get it. Because someone's gonna ask a question that you didn't think to ask, and then you're gonna see it and say, I was wondering about that, right? And so we really want to make sure that everybody is getting the same information at the same time.
Yes.
Have you received any communication from any of the 14 members so
At
far?
this point, no. Not-
Pardon me?
At this point, no.
Okay.
So
So is the idea that like, so we're reading through sections 1 through 4 today aspirationally. So do I make a list of all the questions I have about 1 through 4 to be discussed next time? Or are we gonna talk about those? Or am I emailing, hey, in 5 and 6, next time I have these questions in advance?
Yeah, the intent would be when you get your agenda to kind of look at what's coming up, read through what's coming up, and then if you have questions, that way we're always working to answer questions so that we have them
Relevant
for
to
you
the
in the room versus doing it retroactively. That being said, since we didn't have this conversation prior to this, if you do have questions that we can't address tonight, then certainly send them to me and we can have those as clarifying questions. We should always be looking proactively versus retroactively. That's not to say you can't ask for clarification.
Right.
the good thing is that these first 4 meetings are for understanding. And then once we get to ideas or majority suggestions that we're going to make as a body for the city council, then I think you can also revisit all of those questions as well.
And Billy, I think from my perspective, don't suppress your questions tonight as we're going through.
You obviously don't know me very well.
Well, this is a general comment, but feel free to put it out there because this is for understanding. And so if there's something that can't be addressed or is kind of out there too far, Colleen can capture that and get it back to all 14 members that may not be answered tonight, So since we didn't do what Colleen just mentioned, we're gonna go through the 4 sections,
We're aiming
4 articles, that's the aim.
Yes.
I got major questions about everything,
Oh,
so we're gonna be bringing that up.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, that's good. Again, today, this is just information so that you can have it for future meetings. But yes, today, we understood that it was going to probably be a little bit slower because a lot of people had questions and they may not have sent them.
And we will do our best at this end of the table to address questions that come up tonight. Anything that we don't feel we can fully capture, I'll make note of those questions and get responses so that you'll have them for the next meeting.
Well, they may be questions, they also may be suggestions about what to do with certain sections.
That's okay too. And again, like,
Although we're not really capturing recommendations right now. The intent, and again, as Jose said, the intent is to get through all of the sections just to have an understanding of what's there, what it means, that kind of thing. And then we will start the matrix with recommendations. Because I think it's important to get through the entire charter because there are areas of the charter that become impacted by other areas. And since we're doing them kind of in sections, there may be recommendations that come up only having looked at that first 4 sections in depth that are answered later in the charter or are referenced later in the charter. So I just think it's a good idea to have an in-depth understanding and to ask those questions ahead of time so that when we start making recommendations, and by we, I mean y'all, that all of that has been fleshed out.
So if I have recommendations for the first 4 articles, I should send them to you.
Yeah, you can send them to me and then that can kind of,
Okay.
we can include that with questions saying that these are recommendations.
Not tonight.
Right,
Okay.
but you can send them to me and we'll start capturing them.
I would like to hear recommendations, because to me, that's just expanding on what we're trying to do and may end up giving us a bigger picture.
and we're not limited. What we're saying that is that we're not going to go into the nitty gritty of saying how many people agree with this recommendation.
No, I'm not asking
Right.
for that.
And I'm-
If
and
he's
I'm
got
not-
recommendations, I'd like to hear them in context of the discussion tonight.
But I'm not necessarily going to be capturing them in a matrix.
That's fine.
Right
Yes,
now.
That's fine.
that's the portion that we're gonna be doing on the later half. Some final things is that we are not taking action on this meeting. We're essentially navigating through it together. And then on this, eventually we're going to start making those majority and minority decisions. As such, the rules of our commissions and boards do not have that, because we're not taking any action, there's no voting per se, right? So the best way to do some reference for the future, like let's say that you want to go through a specific section. So Colleen, and as you know, if you have visited the meetings on the website for Littleton, there are timestamps on each of the sections. So there will be timestamps on each of the sections. So it was like, oh, we talked about this in this section. There will be timestamps as soon as.
So generally, we don't timestamp advisory board meetings because they tend to be kind of very free flowing. We do timestamp our quasi judicial board meetings, council, planning commission, historical preservation, things like that. However, I know that there was some concern about not having minutes or a summary. Well, we don't do minutes when we aren't taking action. There's no motions, there's no action. That's the definition of minutes. And part of, council had a lengthy conversation last year and they asked staff to kind of review consistencies with boards, commissions, committees. And one of the determinations was made that we do not do summaries for advisory boards. However, that's when we started recording all the meetings. That becomes the summary. It's always there. Now, because there was concern that we're not going to be doing summary or any kind of overview for these meetings, when the chair and vice chair and I met, I did offer to timestamp these recordings because we are going to be going through things in sections. So it'll be very easy for me to timestamp the beginning of the past charter review committee's recommendations, the start of the prefatory synopsis and all of that. So you can just go to each section and not have to get through a 2 to 2.5 hour meeting trying to remember where it was. You could just click on a link and boom, there it is. And there, instead of a summary, which sometimes intent gets misinterpreted or lost, you end up with an actual recording with inflection, intent, body language, verbatim, all of it. And so that's what we will be doing for these meetings. Generally, they will be up on the website within 1 to 2 business days and will be timestamped when they go up.
The final thing is due to privacy, we, the chair and vice chair, do not have your phone numbers. And one thing that Phil recommended, I think it's a good thing, but we wanted to make sure that we have your permission. We may have your phone numbers personally because, you know, we know some of you, but we don't have everybody's phone number. So if you haven't received any communication from us, it's not because we don't care or we don't like you, it's because we didn't have it. And, you know, Colleen said, if you want to grant that permission to give us your contact information, you can speak with her, you know, write it down, say, hey, yes, it's okay, you know, here's my phone number. And our goal, our aim is for us to check in, you know, and just 1-to-1, no more than 2, so that we don't break any open meeting laws. And just check in, you know, so that, for example, today we're missing 3, I think, of our members. And we just don't want that to happen, right? We want to have the full body and make sure that everybody understands the assignment, has sent their question. And if there's anything that they would like to maybe correct, add to the agenda, just to have it all in unison and have the best teamwork possible. There's this book, The Ideal Team Player by Patrick Lenciani. I don't know if any of you has read it, but in it talks about 3 things that teams really build well, and they're really cohesive and they work together. And we have to be hungry, we have to be humble, and we have to be smart. And hungry means like we're willing to do the work, right? That we're willing to put our time and effort for this task. Humble, it means that we don't think of ourselves neither higher or lower than any member in this committee, but that we work as a team. And smart is not about intelligence, but it's about people, right? Smart with people, treating people gently and being able to have that team feel. And developing those things over the next few months, I think, is going to be crucial, so that when we start making recommendations, it's not, Josh against Tamsin or, Sarah against me. It's more like, hey, this is my position. I hope you've understood it. We've been nice to each other. We've been able to discuss these things. We had the questions, we had the recommendations, we had the comments. And that way we can make this the most productive meeting that we can do. Phil? Am I missing anything?
No,
Okay, good.
not at the high point. I mean, it's, the check-in, don't think of that as being typically one of those things. It's mostly, if you're looking for it, which some of us may not be looking for as much, but permission to bring things up, like Billy was talking about, well, do we need to send all my questions and all that kind of stuff? It's mostly that we're in this together and we want to collaborate as we move along. And so it's to keep us kind of friendly. And so Jose, during the administration of the meetings, doesn't get too surprised. Surprise is okay, 2 surprises, not as fun.
And so I would just, to Jose's point, if you are okay sharing numbers or personal email addresses, although for everything be done by phone, so we don't create electronic ad hoc meetings unless you use BCC on everything, right? I can share that with them, but I would want something from you in writing saying it's okay to release that. I take personal information and your privacy as citizens very carefully. It's important. And because you don't have city email addresses, I don't feel it's my place to release that information. So, yes, sir.
You must have my phone number.
I asked.
We got mine.
I also asked.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have received a text message from you.
Yeah, that's
So do
true.
you have everybody's telephone number?
I do not.
How many do you have?
6.
6.
Yes. Okay.
If we.
And how did you get it?
3 of them I know, 2 of them I asked.
If.
I mean, it's not a problem.
No, it's fine, it's fine. I understand your concern. And
No, it's not a concern. I'm just saying
Yeah.
you already have my telephone.
yeah.
But not everyone's, Carol.
I would prefer email rather than text message,
No
because that way I can just file it in my file on
Sounds
the
good.
computer. And I'm going to assume that everybody's getting the same message.
100%, 100%. If you received a message from me, it was essentially a copy paste. And some of you could tell because, I may have more regular social conversations, and then you get this text saying, hi, I'm Jose, the chair review, But yes, if you can please tell us whether it's okay, and if it's not okay, that's fine, we'll reach out to whoever has given us authorization, so that we can be on the same page on Thursdays, usually. Okay, those are some of the overviews and updates since our last meeting, and I hope that this section will be way shorter next time.
Did we want to talk about virtual attendance?
Yes, virtual attendance. It is there. It is imperative that we do this in person as much as possible. There will be maybe an extenuating circumstance, and I will speak with my co-chair and also with Colleen if that's allowed. But if you're sick, get better,
Don't worry about the meeting. So
Um,
again, back to when council looked at boards and commissions consistency. It was their intent, it is their intent that whenever possible, attendance be in person because they think it's vital for that interaction. We lose something when people are virtual because we don't see them all the time. We may have something else on the screen. We don't see if Kent's raising his hand. We don't see if Billy's smirking going, you don't know me very well. We don't see that, right? If something comes up and you cannot be here, sick kiddos at home, whatever. Thank you, Billy. Reach out to your chair, your vice chair, or me, because the chair does have the authority per council to decide if that situation warrants virtual attendance. So we're not saying it's never gonna happen. It's just the intent is to be in person.
And some meetings are live streamed on YouTube, but this is not one of them.
That is correct. Those are our quasi judicial boards because they're also streamed on our website and Facebook. These are done strictly via Zoom, which we then upload to YouTube. So they become available on YouTube later and they also become available on our website.
All right. Yes.
I got 2 process questions.
Yes.
Number 1, my assumption with 14 potential people, there are 11 here tonight. If we want to speak, we should raise our hand so you as the chair,
Yeah, that's.
rather than just blurting stuff out. Is that the process?
I think that'll be ideal, but we're not going, if somebody's reacting to something or directly
But
engaging,
you have to be sensitive to that.
100%. We're trying to keep these as timely as possible and as respectful as possible. Yes.
The other miscellaneous issue that I wanted to bring up and ask, what was presented to us, I'd like to know the reason for the charter changes. Was that in relation to specific changes discussed in the past and how this might influence any present recommendations on specific articles?
Which charter changes are you speaking about, Kent?
Everything in this, all of the stuff from the past, all the red line,
So the reason that.
to give us an understanding of what happened in the past.
So.
And then there's 3 pages that were just recent.
So the reason that we shared previous recommendations was so that we don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel.
Okay.
If those are areas as we review those, that this committee finds validity in and wants to look at that moving forward. Or if the committee says, I don't even know why that went forward. Just to kind of give you an idea of what the previous committee in 13-14 looked at and made recommendations. Out of those 30 recommendations, council put 10 questions on the ballot.
Sure.
And seven passed, 3 did not. And so the intent was, do we want to go back and look at the 20 that they never put on a ballot and the 3 that failed? And maybe why? Do we want to look at, was the language not revised appropriately? Was there not enough education, things like that? So that's the intent. And also to provide kind of an idea of what the former incarnation of this group found value in bringing forward.
So part of the reason for me asking the question is I spent 2.5 hours going through all of those today,
Okay.
just to read them and understand them. So that's why I asked the question. And it makes total sense to me. What you said is why they were there.
Yeah, and I would hope that that we will not be providing you with erroneous information. If we decide to send you something, it's going to be because we want your input, we want your review, we want your consideration. It's not just to say, this is what we did in the past. I am not a big fan of, we've always done it this way, or this is what, because if that's the case, we could just take the 23 that weren't recommended and didn't pass and go from there and be done with it. But that's not the intent. So if we're sharing something with you, it's because we want you to kind of review that and provide input if you think it valuable.
Thank you, Colleen. That makes sense.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'd like to put on record, I appreciate the preparation. It gave us roadmap. I feel a little bit like a forensic, psychologist looking at what happened in the past. It was really helpful. If it was just the charter, I wouldn't know where to start.
Yes.
I have a process question. And it's been brought up before. It was brought up Tuesday night. And of all the years that I've participated in these kinds of groups, we've always allowed the public to comment. And I think if we ever have public that attends the meeting, that we ought to give them the courtesy of hearing from them, either at the beginning of the meeting or at the end of the meeting for the 3 minutes. It's not like it's going to take all night to do, but out of respect for them being here, I think it's something the group ought to consider.
Can I speak to?
Sure, and I have one other, talking about the charter changes. Were these in the book? Because I didn't see that. Okay, so we have some other ones that were in front of the voters, or I think maybe the committee should have access to this as well.
Yeah, in regard to the public comment, again, and I'm gonna refer back to council's direction on board and commission and committee consistency. When it comes to public comment, I don't want you to bristle at this, Carol, but I'm just gonna state fact. There is nothing that requires council or any other board to allow public comment unless there is a public hearing. That being said, our council and our quasi judicial boards value, as do our other boards, I'm not going to discount them, value public input. The decision was made by council to leave it up to board chairs whether or not they would allow public comment, how long that public comment would be. In regards to this committee, my opinion is that during these first 3 or 4 meetings, as we are getting through the charter for understanding the concept and all of that, I don't feel that public comment would be that valuable. There's a reason each of you is here, and it is because individual council members value the role that you play in community, the role that you have played in getting involved, either brand new or returning members, people who just don't seem to have enough on their plate. I don't know what's going on with them. I think when we get to the point where we are actually talking about recommendations, and having those discussions, I think that might be the time where we start putting public comment on the agenda. So it's not that we don't want to hear from the public. But ultimately what they have to say is not necessarily going to be part of the consideration. That's not to say that they won't come up with something that makes someone go, wait a minute. I just think during the initial review time might not be the most appropriate time because we have a lot to get through. Any comments, concerns on that? And again, that's my opinion, completely up to Jose. He can say, you know what, let's let him do it.
I just want to put it out.
Yeah.
Totally do it.
My comment on it would be, I would be opposed to public comment in this. I think we're a working body, working through things. The reason for public comment is when we make recommendations as a board to council, that's the time for public comment. I don't believe that it should be any part of this.
And that's certainly a conversation each of you can have with the chair and vice chair to help them make that decision. But yes, public will have an opportunity when the final recommendations go to council, to speak to it. But again, the point of convening 14 people, 2 per council member, was to kind of streamline this process and not to have.
And also it is not to say that we are not having conversations with some of our neighbors or other people that we may know. And they may be saying like, I read this random thing in the charter. And, I think that it's important if somebody were to give you that information to bring it so that we can all consider as well. But again, we are, as chair and co-chair, we're going to look into these things as well. And if someone comes and feels the impetus to share something extremely important, we'll consider it.
The concern also on the other side, and Dan makes a good point, is we have a time frame in which we need to complete our work. So first off is this year, we'll be going through for understanding. And then for the first few months of next year, we'll be coming up with recommendations, majority and minority at that point in time. But we need to be done somewhere around April-ish, May-ish next year so that council and staff can say what to do with the recommendations. So this is not the end of the process. This is more, we're really at the beginning of the process in going through all of this. And it's important that we do a thorough job in what we're doing.
And to Phil's point, those timeframes are somewhat predicated on a timeline to get things on a ballot in 26 if council decides to move anything forward to the November 26 ballot, to allow time for public education and outreach, input, those kinds of things. And then we have statutory timelines when we coordinate with the counties to approve ballot content and all of this kind of thing. And so trying to get something finalized, recommendations finalized in that April timeframe is what we would need to schedule things in front of council at a study session, to have the committee or members of the committee to come and make a presentation and say, these are the recommendations we're making and why, for council to then have time to discuss, decide what, if anything, they're going to pull out for 2026, or what they may want to put on the municipal ballot in 27. So that's why timeframes are fairly important here. That's not to say that we may not go past that. We may make a first round of recommendations. It's just going to depend on where we get, and are we going to have 30 recommendations? Are we going to have 40? Maybe we're only going to have 20. We don't know that yet. Questions?
Okay, Discussion topics. Start with,
Okay, I'm gonna put this down. I'm gonna put up the charter.
So to be a nerd, I know we're halfway through or partway through our second meeting. Should we submit our forms that say we're gonna adhere
Yeah,
to
you
rules?
can give those to me
That's great.
and I will file them.
It's in your
The
packet.
back of the.
Back.
It's the first or the last page in front of the blue tab.
Gold star for Billy.
Give you a little smiley face.
Teacher, you didn't do your homework.
Thanks, Billy. It's the very last.
After the red tab and before the city. Last page.
Should have been just before.
Before that?
Page.
Nothing there.
No.
Turn it
Oh. The section before that, the section about your expectations or what's your red tab?
That's right.
Not there.
Strange. It was the last page of this section.
Oh, wait.
Perfect. I've been flashing.
So our agenda, we are going through 2013 and 2014 recommendations. So our, as colleague said, our prior incarnation. And well, it's time for questions because I know some of you have them. So.
Can I make a suggestion? It's just a suggestion, which is I read through this and then I read through the recommendations. I found it easier to read through what was the issue and then look at the recommendations for that particular section. Then move to the next section and then look at the recommendations. So if we go through all the recommendations, we're gonna be really jump into some recommendations that were later in the charter. So I would amend the suggestion, which is we just go through the sections and then look at the recommendations for that particular section. Just say, what did the last one say? I just think that's a more natural process. That would be my suggestion I'd put out.
I agree with Dan.
Okay, all right, well then.
So do we not want this one up? We actually want the charter.
Yeah, we're going through the
We're gonna make you toggle.
prefatory synopsis. Yeah,
It's not that easy. It's okay.
we'll go through the prefatory synopsis and then look at the recommendations from 2013, 14.
Just suggesting, because we'd hit those like
I think it's a good
the
suggestion.
30th page of the recommendation, stuff that we won't be talking about until.
That is true, that is true.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Should we read it out loud? Is that something that is beneficial? No, I didn't think so. I just wanted to double check.
Interpretive dance all day.
Yeah.
Interpretive dance, you're up.
Oh, no, that's my daughter, not me.
Arts and Culture Board. I expect.
Okay, are there any questions or things that you have thought about as you have studied this first part of the document?
Yeah, I have one. In where it says first, absolute right and power of self-government under the home rule provisions of the Constitution of the state. Home rule is a real critical component of this. And I think that we need to really understand the necessity of understanding that this city is a home rule city
Okay,
and not a statutory city.
understood.
Correct.
You know the difference.
I do know the difference personally, yes, but I think it's a helpful thing to be explained.
We perhaps have the city attorney.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
going
I
to
mean,
say
I'm
that.
happy to do it, but the city attorney is here,
He's
so.
pulling his table comparison. What's the difference between a statutory city?
It's not-
I don't know.
A statutory city abides by state statute. They do not have the latitude to make their own laws or to be governed by a home rule charter. A home rule city, and there is a process to become one. The last city that did it was Castle Pines in 2019. They were the 102nd home rule municipality in Colorado. I only know that because I know their clerk. Allows us to operate with our own rules. That's our city code, our own laws that we've adopted, with our own charter, which is our constitution, I believe is how it was explained to you last time. Does that mean we get to disregard statute? Not entirely. It means that we can enact laws for our specific municipality that differ from state statute. We can be stricter, we can't be more lenient. Generally, there are a few exceptions. But it really gives the right to govern the city to our constituents and staff to come up with what is best for the city versus the state saying this isn't statute, that's what you're gonna do. Questions?
Yeah, I just make a comment about that, because that's one of the reasons that the 5 issues that were brought forward by the state government and adopted abridge some of the home rule issues.
And I'll let the attorney speak to that.
I think there were 5 of them. I know 4 of them.
Are we talking about the recent land use cases?
Yeah, all of that stuff, yeah. Yeah,
I mean, generally to just expound upon what Pauline said is, you know, the state constitution kind of prescribes a few certain things that home rule municipalities have the control over. One of those has always been land use. So historically, home rule municipalities have the ability to regulate, to legislate around things that are of what we consider local concern. Like this doesn't, you know, deal with state, it's really just local. This is our city. We're gonna legislate how we want to. Sometimes the state comes in, as they've done recently, and preempts that.
yes, I
And they'll
know.
specifically put the language in there saying that this is not a matter of local concern. This is a matter of state concern. This current administration in our state has said that housing in general is a matter of statewide concern. So that is how they have been, quote unquote, legislating in that area. And right now, we do have a lawsuit that is challenging a few of the the statutes that are that have been quote unquote imposed on home rule municipalities. So right now it's this, I want to say it's Aurora, Arvada.
It's like 7 cities.
Yeah, there's like, I think there's 6, but there could be another one who's had it.
Lafayette.
Yeah,
Westminster.
and basically saying that, look, we have our state constitution, which allows us to do this. We have 100 years of case law that says that cities have control over their own boundaries. And basically saying that what the state legislature has done is unconstitutional. So that is playing out right now. I know that there's some other House bills that have been advanced that have not been challenged yet, but it is the exact same principle for those. Specifically, ADUs have been one. That is recent legislation that says that you are required, or you're allowed, municipalities are required to allow for ADUs to be built in any zoning district in which you allow for single family residential housing. So that one hasn't been challenged yet, but it's the same principle that's being challenged for other ordinances. But I mean, I'm just my own legal opinion, I have always supported home rule. It's frustrating to see the state get involved in their approach because while perhaps some of it is well-meaning, and this is just my personal opinion, the cookie cutter approach does not always work on just a local level. Like, we're not the same as Aurora. We're not the same as Denver. We don't want to be the same as Aurora. We don't want to be the same as Denver necessarily in all respects. So prescribing laws in which there is uniformity in certain things such as behavior and zoning of your own cities is just personally kind of challenging, although altruistic in nature, I suppose, but.
So, point of order around all of this. As I'm reading through the recommendations from last time, the majority recommendation was to remove the preparatory synopsis, which does contain the home rule reference. So I'm getting from Kent, and so I'm gonna paraphrase a little bit if I'm thinking correct, which is a question that he'd want, and we don't have to vote on this, he'd want to see a description of home rule as a component of our city be something that would be included. So we can put that in the parking lot for tonight relative to this. And my second is actually a question. You had the majority recommendation, okay, in at least my binder, it's in red and it's crossed out, okay? But when I'm reading the charter, it's still in there. So this one did not come up for a vote.
No, so if you look at the table, yeah, if you look at the table, the majority recommendation was to remove it. The minority was to retain it, and then the staff recommendation shows that it was removed during the 1976 codification, but not by city council, not by a vote. So it was replaced in the charter,
Was placed back.
because there was never anything legal to have it removed.
Okay, so that's,
Whether it was removed by error, I don't know, but,
so the charter that we have is the way the charter is currently, regardless of where the recommendations are.
right, and one thing to understand is there are certain things that must be contained in a charter. And kind of that overview prefatory synopsis is one of those things because it defines what the charter is and the purpose of the charter. So even though some folks thought, let's just get rid of it, it's a page of useless information, not something we can technically take out.
Because that would mean that we wouldn't be home rule anymore.
No, we would still be home ruled, but our charter would not be in compliance with
Understood.
statute.
I see.
So there are some definitions about what must be in a charter and what doesn't have to be in a charter, right?
Which leads to my follow-up question, which is, as I read through the prefatory synopsis, I imagine that some of these things have to be there, but not all of them. So this could actually be wordsmithed. And so, the question not for answer tonight is which parts are required
What has to be there
and which parts might be up for
and what is
later discussion.
the delicious creamy filling in the Oreo?
Correct.
Okay. To paraphrase.
What page were you referencing when you were reading that? In that 56 pages, what page?
Oh, I'm on page
So I think
One
it's
of
and
50.
two.
one. I mean, it's the second half of page one.
No, I'm not talking about the preparatory.
In our binder, it's
You're
page
talking about
one.
the recommendation, you're talking about the recommendation. It's in the orange tab. Orange tab.
Page one?
Page one of the orange.
Page one and two.
56, yeah.
Yeah, okay, page one.
I was corresponding what the recommendations were with, you got it, thanks, Ken.
Yeah, because there are some portions of the preparatory synopsis that are actually in other parts of the charter. The one thing we need to consider is when this charter was adopted, this was brand new to folks, right? They didn't necessarily know how to build a charter. You know, I don't know where Littleton falls, and forgive me, in the hierarchy of home rule, right? I don't know if we were in the early part of home rule municipalities or the middle or, so I don't know how much there was to learn from. when that charter committee was formed and drafted this. And we also don't know the backgrounds of those people, and their intent and want to overemphasize certain conditions.
Right. So
Right.
that was just my question.
No.
Doesn't have to be answered now.
Yeah.
What's fluff or
Yeah.
filling?
And I've made a note, so when we send out the packet for next time, I will have some of that outlined. I'll go through some of what has to be in there, what has to be in the charter, what isn't necessary. Reed and I will confer on that. And then that way you'll have that to kind of operate from.
Section about the city clerk is not necessary.
Yes, Ken?
One minor issue in the second, third, fourth, fifth paragraph, starting the policy making. There's no mention of the mayor in there. It just says
That's because at the time, we
at
did
the
not
time.
have, we did not have a.
Changed now.
We
I'm
did-
just saying, there's no mention of mayor in
Right.
it. Okay, that's what I wanted to bring up.
Good question is, should there be a mention?
He's a member of the council.
Right.
Yeah, he's still a member of the council.
I understand
We
that.
don't have a strong mayor, right, which means
It's a
our
weak
mayor,
mayor.
our mayor has no powers above and beyond that of other councilmen. It's still a single vote. He doesn't break ties, those kinds of things. The only difference is he or she, they, I guess they is correct. No, I'm old.
The mayor.
Is direct elect. So, to Carol's point, still a member of council. This is a council city manager form of government.
Right.
It's not a mayor and council city manager form of government. So that's something we can split hairs about later.
Right.
To see if we want to make that recommendation.
Go back to calling him president of council.
Oh, we could, but no.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to be clear on this prefatory synopsis, if this was a high school paper assignment, early on in the days, they're like, you know what? When you write the paper, you need to have a synopsis at the front. The synopsis at the front has nothing to do with the charter. It's just a synopsis of it, right? So once we get through our recommendations, this is just a synopsis that a lot of those things will come out of it and then we can do the synopsis, correct? And some previous group was like, we don't need a synopsis. We're now seniors. We've learned it. We don't need a synopsis. And you said, well, wait a minute, that wasn't done by the right process.
Right.
So a synopsis was put back in.
It was put back in, but there's also a requirement under statute that when you
Have a
have a
synopsis.
charter, you have to have kind of that over.
It's like a freshman course. You need a
I
synopsis.
need that.
Yes.
101.
Also what you said, Colleen, as well. I mean, it is a synopsis summary,
Mhm.
what follows, but I think it's important as well. I mean, not only is it regulatory and required, but it sets the spirit and intent. I think it's important.
Right.
It is. There are some areas though that are pretty much verbatim from other charter sections. And so there's,
You're saying it's redundant. Maybe they struck it because it felt
I'm gonna
redundant.
give you an example of what I'm gonna hypothesize is kind of filling and not required here. If you go to the second to the last paragraph, which says the first election under the charter will be held on 3 November 1959.
Yeah.
Provision is made for an orderly change from the present form of government to that of a home rule city. That's all water under the dam
That's done.
or water under the bridge. And so there's things
I'm gonna
that,
argue that. That's history.
I know that's
And if you
history.
strike it from there, then when someone wants to know, when was this charter
Initiated.
initiated?
I,
It's gone. I mean, I get what you're saying, but maybe this is not the creamy filling. Maybe you're looking at it as double stuff and part of it needs to stay there.
I said that was a hypothesis as an example.
No, I get it, but I think we're kind of getting in the weeds right now.
Yes.
A little bit, but it's out there in the ether, so we can have the conversations as we move forward.
Any other questions about this section?
If you make a change to the charter, the prefatory synopsis is also gonna have to change, so it becomes like a two-part.
Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, that's gonna be a conversation that y'all can have if we wanna clean that up. I personally don't find a lot of value in cleaning it up. This is what it was when the charter was adopted in 1959. Again, there's some history there.
You might get a bad grade. If you work there, it just doesn't match.
Well, the synopsis has no like legal binding.
Yeah, it's just like,
The fact that it says we don't have a mayor or not a directly elected mayor, there's no legal binding aspect of the
No,
synopsis.
because
They
we
can say
covered
anything.
that in the charter. Mhm.
So I think that as we go through this, you all are gonna find some bigger ones to deal with. We can't.
This isn't even an appetizer, people.
Charter amendments to the ballot.
This isn't even an appetizer. This is like a little free taste they get you of something that they just invented.
Bigger fish to fry.
All right. Next section, the preamble. Short enough, green enough.
Yep.
All the required.
Just says, this is what gives us the right to do it, and we're doing it.
Okay,
Okay.
no one opposes, see that, we move to Article 1. All right, Article 1,
And we want to go through section,
Section 1,
okay,
name boundaries.
any,
Yes, Ken?
We're 3 counties.
we do sit in 3 counties,
We're
yes.
not 1 county. Does that need to be altered?
Yes. That probably is a section that we want to add Jefferson and Douglas to. Again, at the time this was formed, we didn't have. Let's see,
Any extra ones for Section 1?
but that's a great question, thank you.
And a question for research,
Although it does say until changed in a manner authorized by law, which we did, was amended in 2015. Anything we've done to now be included in Jefferson and Douglas has been done through an annexation process. However, that doesn't mean we can't have legal here. Because a lot of people are really surprised to find out that we sit in 3 different counties.
what?
Yeah.
Just a quick question for the attorney or Colleen to answer. What is the significance of the words municipal corporation and second class, city of the second class? What do those mean? And that doesn't have to be answered tonight.
For research.
And there is something in statute about the municipal corporation, that exact.
I know that, but I'm saying, for our understanding, we should.
And what was the other one, Phil? I'm sorry.
City of
City of the second class.
Okay.
Any extra question for this section? Yes.
Colleen, just because it says amended in 2015, but there really wasn't anything on the ballot. Is this catch-all?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's one of those that was a catch-all thing that changed some,
Capitalization or punctuation?
correct,
Okay.
correct.
Section 2, form of government.
And that's that council manager that we talked about.
And no mention of mayor.
Right, because the mayor, again, is a member of council. The mayor, again, not a strong mayor.
No, I understand.
Well, and they immediately had mayors in 1959. They were just elected within the council. So
Right.
it's not like they didn't see mayors coming at all.
Right.
Well,
They
we're
had-
not even a week.
They had no real power as a mayor.
They had the same power that the mayor has now.
Well,
They
I
run
would, I would
the,
debate that.
they run the meeting, they appear at ribbon cuttings.
Yes.
And you'll see that in the charter later when we talk about the direct elect mayor, that it specifies.
Right.
That they really don't have,
Extra
This power.
powers, authority.
but again, something we can chat about when we get to the
To
recommendation.
me, it's a big deal because it happened 4 years ago, 1959. You know, that's,
And to me, it would be a big. deal if
that's
we had-
41,
strong-
41 and 20.
Yeah, if we had a strong mayor, it would be a bigger deal to me. But I hear you, I understand, and it's certainly something we can chat about.
That's the extent of my.
No.
Any extra one?
That's good.
Be clear, she's not referring to the strength of our current mayor.
The strength of the position of mayor.
Yes.
That's correct. Section 3,
Always been working out.
He
Section
just ride his bike a lot.
powers. Section 3.
Any questions, concerns? And this kind of goes to what Reed was talking about earlier with home rule municipalities. Construction of words. Being none.
Okay. Section 5, present ordinances.
And this was just saying that any ordinances that the city had adopted up to the time of incorporation and designation as a home rule were in effect.
I don't wanna go down a whole rabbit hole, but
But you're going to, aren't you?
it was a we became a home rule city so we could make our own laws. So how would we have our own laws already that needed to be carried over?
There still would have been potentially some ordinances that had been passed, not to adopt a code though. There would have been other types of ordinances, potentially budget ordinances. There are a lot of things that council enacts via ordinance that does not impact a city code,
So before we were a home rule city, was Littleton just a statutory city?
statutory city. Yes.
Josh? No, okay.
Oh, Josh is saving his stuff up. I can tell. He's got his glasses on.
Okay, section 6, I actually have a question.
Uh-oh.
So since the first charter amendment, the city has annexed a few extra areas, correct? If I read this correctly, that any newly annexed area or portion thereof may be detached by ordinance within 90 days after annexation by 5 affirmative votes. That just means like back when it was annexed,
Well, they would have to do it within 90 days of annexation.
when that happened, when the annexation happened. This
Or in the future.
is for future regions,
Yeah.
correct, yes. The question I have for this one is, does the charter contain the information for the annexing a portion?
Probably.
Okay.
Um,
And we might get to it,
Yeah.
it's just something that came salient in my head, and I was just like,
yeah.
Well, isn't that the next sentence? Thereafter, you can't be detached except upon majority vote.
right, well, my question was, because the word ordinance was in the first part, I was saying, the other one, would that be like a referendum? Or would that be an ordinance that can be brought from city council? That's the portion that I was kind of like, oh,
Ordinances come from the council.
I understand.
Yeah, but
So
he's
I'm saying
asking if it would be.
Yeah, so like, it wasn't at least clear to me whether like to detach, right? Will be, it's majority vote of the registered electors voting, but would it have to be like 1,800 signatures to,
Well, so after the 90 days is what they're saying. Up to 90 days, council can do it with a supermajority.
Yes.
After 90 days of annexation, then it has to go to a vote.
And a vote of the people that have been annexed. So if Trailmark wanted to be detached from the city, they could vote. We have nothing to say about it.
Correct.
It's gotta be. the
That's my
city.
interpretation, but I would defer to,
I believe this is the city. The city's now
That's
made
what I
an
read.
investment after 90 days.
Yeah.
And so it actually would have to be a city vote.
Well, that was my question, was it just says a majority vote of registered electors voting, and I'm like, well, is that a majority of 45,000 Littletonians, or is it a majority of?
we have about 33,000 registered electors.
Right, citizens, not voters, but, or
Get out there
residents.
and talk to the people who aren't registered.
Um,
That are old enough to be.
But it's not clear, like, it doesn't say, it doesn't say the citywide or the entire municipal, I mean,
It doesn't define who
Can trail marks succeed on a majority of trail marks?
That's exactly my.
So I'm putting the section 6 down here as a question on process.
Sure.
Something I'll do some research on, Reed and I will confer on.
Define,
Yeah.
you know, you said owners.
Trail marks are big.
Does that mean owners of
House 16.
in that area of the detached?
Mhm.
You live there.
Thank you.
Section 6, any extra ones?
These are great questions, by the way.
Section 7, definitions.
And so I know that this section was updated with the last charter review committee. They did add some definitions. This might also be a great place to consider adding that definition of a home rule municipality in the definitions, because we do see home rule, not just in the prefatory, but we do see it throughout other areas of the charter and our code, right? So this might be a great place to add a definition of what it means to be home. Okay?
In this section, it does also have registered electors, but it doesn't say that it's a person within the boundaries of Littleton. So.
Well, it says registered
By
voters
statute.
required or prescribed by statutes of the state. So in a municipal election, you can only vote in that municipality if you're registered here. But this might be also, certainly we can define that better, something to think about.
We can also define mayor.
We could define mayor in there, if we wanted to.
All right.
Any other questions on 7? Definitions? And certainly think about things that you as a citizen hear or see that you don't quite understand what we mean by that. Because we can make recommendations to add
A few extra definitions.
add words and definitions. Just know that any recommendations we make, any recommendations that council feels that there is enough reason to move forward, we are going to have to be very clear with why we're adding these things with some justification, so that when it does go to the registered electors of the city of Littleton within our municipal boundary, Josh, that there's an understanding of why we're adding those things.
And just in this section, it talks about the recommendations include this publication posted in red. But that's not included in the document, so that either did not go to the voters or it did go to the voters and was rejected. Do we know?
Which one, I'm sorry,
Page 5 in
of the
the
recommendations?
recommendations, correct. Orange cap.
And which one were you looking at on page?
One that says publication, published,
Yeah,
posted.
yeah.
So that didn't make it to the definition, so
Correct.
it did not go to the voters
It
or?
did not. It was not one of the ones that moved forward.
Colleen, was there a choice on some of these to not go to voters because if we did want to overwhelm entire voters because of all of these things?
Yeah, so that the council really did look at the 30 recommendations that came before them. And based on capacity and other things that they knew they were moving forward to a ballot in 2015, which was a municipal election year. So there were seats up for election during that year. I'm sure part of council's consideration was not to overwhelm the voters. And there's also an expense involved every time you put a question on the ballot. And if you have a municipality that's putting 30 questions on the ballot saying, we as a body don't want to determine what's valid and what isn't, we're just gonna let the voters. Once you start overloading a ballot, people step away. And they just go, you know what, I'm not even gonna attempt.
No.
Or they do that a lot.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're asking for that much, we're giving you nothing. And so there was some consideration there, but that's a great question and certainly something to consider as we move forward with recommendations. And maybe at the end of this, if we have 30 and you really feel strongly that they're all valid, then yeah, we take all 30 of those to council. Bless you. Maybe we take those 30 and do some weighing and say, maybe 25 are valid, maybe 20 are valid, right? And really kind of narrow that scope, help council a little bit to understand why we started with 30, 35, but we're really only recommending this number to you, and this is why. Any questions on that? Okay.
Looks like last time they wanted a definition for what a publication is.
And that's what we were talking about, and it did not go to ballot.
But like, where does that word show up in the charter?
It does show up quite often
Yeah.
in the charter, in regards to publishing of salaries and things like that. When it talks, there will be places in the charter and the code that talk about, legal notices and notice of hearings and that they be published. But one thing that council does, the very first resolution that they pass every year is notice of where publications and postings will be. And that's 3 physical locations, which is this building, the municipal courthouse, and the library. And which publication is the publication of record, and for us, it's the Littleton Independent. That doesn't mean that we can't broaden that and that we can't offer some other definition. So as we go through the charter, I don't know that it really appears quite that often to warrant that, especially since we do this other resolution, but that's a determination that no.
This language had gone through, would that kind of limit what council could do when it comes to that resolution to say, here's what publishing means?
No. No, because this is really just defining what publication, published, posted means. They'd still be able to adopt that resolution saying this is where that will happen. But that's happening now, so, and I think we really need to focus on the purpose of the charter versus our code, right? And to consider that every recommendation we make for the charter, everything that council may move forward, this is by a vote of the people. Council cannot change this charter any other way. And so we really need to be thinking about what makes sense for now and what makes sense for the next 10 years before we do the next charter review.
This is our constitution.
It really is.
And that's why I ask, I want to kind of get an understanding of the last group that did this, what they were thinking. Also, an understanding of like the legalese of
I mean, that's
what this
not,
would do to a council.
right, that's not to say that any citizen or group of citizens, if they really took umbrage with a section of the charter, couldn't file an initiative and say, oh, we want that stricken. We don't like it, or we want the verbiage change, and then it goes to a vote anyway. There's an additional expense that's involved in that because we're now putting questions on a ballot where we may not have had any. And that's okay. That challenges me to meet my deadlines. Carol likes to keep me on my toes over here.
Which,
The next section. Ironic,
That's right.
great segue, Colin.
Section.
See how I did that? How I just segued us in there?
Yeah, they, maybe Fran has submitted to the register electors, to the petitioning council. Yeah, the council on its own initiative, right?
Yeah.
Any questions about that? Okay. Finally, section 9, constitutionality. I think that's just legalese. It's- that section. Fine, I'm done. Okay. All right.
Moving along.
Moving along to
Elections.
Article 2. Yes.
Okay.
Section 10, generally.
And so the council will provide by ordinance, the manner that we hold city elections. Council has determined that whenever possible, we'll coordinate elections with our partner counties. There are benefits to that. It's cheaper. It's less confusing for voters because you're getting one ballot that has all municipal issues and candidates on it. It will have county issues on it. It will have state issues on it. So you're getting one ballot that comes in. And it's just less confusing. And again, it's less expensive. And those of us who work in elections, we always want to err on the side of the voter. And so we want to make sure that we are presenting to the voters the most concise way to conduct that. There are some home rule municipalities that will coordinate and run special elections just for their council seats. And they find that they have a much lower turnout when they do that because people aren't necessarily looking for a ballot in April or June. Everyone's looking for a ballot in November because they know that's when the counties and the state and and federal all happen in November, right? And so it just makes sense for us to do that. And so that's just what this is talking about. Yeah.
This one I thought just as I hate it when it says not inconsistent with the provisions.
Mhm.
That goes throughout this charter somewhat, which, is there a legal reason why it says that rather than just say consistent with the like, not inconsistent?
Why the double negative?
Because whoever wrote this failed their freshman paper.
Okay.
Double negative.
And I see that the last group
That's
wrote
right.
it nicer, clearer, and more concise, but say the same thing. My guess is that we decided not to take that to the electors.
Yeah, and one thing to consider is we can do a cleanup ordinance, which we did back in the last group. We did a cleanup ordinance to change references from like him and her to more gender neutral pronouns. We changed everywhere it said president of council to mayor, things like that. And so we could do a cleanup ordinance that says anytime it says not inconsistent, change it to consistent or things like that, just so that it's more consistent, number one. Is that consistency? Great question. Whoever assisted in writing this was probably an attorney. Yes, Reed, I'm looking at you. Hide your face.
Speaking of the word irregardless.
Oh, I love that word. Say that and I'll start twitching. And follow
Add
it
it.
supposedly, and we're gonna have issues. But that's a great question. So we can certainly look at that in different sections and put that into kind of a cleanup recommendation. If we find that we're finding little things like that throughout.
Is Title 31 something that came up later?
So no, so Title 31 is the Municipal Election Code of 1965. And that allows municipalities to run their own elections under their own laws, versus Title I, which is the Uniform Election Code. Now, when we coordinate an election, we are running under Title I. Once we enter into an agreement with the counties to do so, which we just did. Anything prior to us entering into that agreement is run under Title 31.
And that would be in a special election?
If we opt to do a special election, so we recently just did a citizens initiative to amend our charter. Up until we entered into an agreement with the counties, which again, those were just approved, it ran under provisions of Title 31, which is the Municipal Election Code, slightly different than Title I. Had something come in after the fact, it would have been too late to get it into a Title I. So we would have had to run a special election and that would have been run under Title 31. We ran a special election in 23 that was completely under Title 31. We've done that. We did one in 07, 2015, and 2023. So every 7 to 8 years. So by the time the next one comes, I'll be retired. Just saying.
It's interesting that during the last one, the recommendations of staff was to adopt Title 31 to govern special and general.
So at one point, It was defined by ordinance to use Title 31. That's challenging because when we coordinate elections, we have to run under Title I because that's what they run under.
You don't want to do that anymore.
I would prefer not to run our own elections. It's very costly and it takes a lot of time, and I have an office of 3. So, I'm always up for a challenge.
Go right in, do what Colleen wants.
Douglas County for that matter.
It's,
That's what they're doing.
so when we coordinate, we run under Title I because that is what the state and the county. Okay. Any other questions on that?
More broadly speaking, Title 31 has all the municipal powers.
Mhm.
It's a state statute. We talk about elections and there, it talks about police and taxation and
All kinds of stuff.
a lot of stuff that aren't mentioned or more fully fleshed out from the state constitution or in Title 31.
For the record, despite the fact that there's a double negative in here, this provision is fine for currently for running elections and doing everything.
I mean, we can certainly look at that double negative and fix it.
Irregardless of what it says.
Just clarify.
Election Commission.
Section 11, I do have a question on this one, and is, how frequent does the commission, meet?
Almost never.
In the
So-
past,
So I'm just gonna, I'm gonna say right
No,
now.
no.
I'm gonna say right now, I am going to make a hard push to eliminate the Election Commission. Because I'm gonna tell you why. Sorry, Carol.
No, I'm wondering if it was required. by
I'm gonna
law.
tell Frank.
Well, no, it wasn't required by law. Well, let me backtrack on that a little bit. When the city first became home rule, cities ran their own elections. They didn't coordinate with counties. County ran a county election, the state ran the state election, municipalities ran their own election. If you were a statutory town or city, you ran under the state. But when this was first adopted, cities ran their own elections. They had voting booths in the hallway. They brought in their own election judges, paper ballots, the whole thing. And so at that time, the Election Commission made sense, was to have a body of people who had a level of expertise to kind of guide those things, to hire election judges, to work with staff to oversee ballot preparation and those kinds of things. Over the years, as we've moved away from that, they really don't have a function anymore, separate from redistricting, which we just went through. My argument there is we could convene a redistricting committee, much like we've done with the Charter Review Committee. Most cities, that's what they do.
Colleen, can we put in the parking lot, what is needed in this section or required?
For election stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, what would be the minimum that we'd have to have? Because there are several duties in here about
Mhm.
tie votes and things like that
Mhm.
to be determined, and all of those things can occur.
They can occur, and there are other ways to resolve those,
Well,
but yeah.
Doesn't the election,
And especially, here's the thing. Yes, they can break a tie, but once we coordinate an election,
by lot.
but once we coordinate an election, we are operating under Title I, and there are rules there
Oh,
for breaking ties.
I see.
And our election commission would have zero authority in a coordinated election.
what about a recall election more than 4 months from a Title I election?
Potentially. So certainly things to consider. Not necessarily a valid reason to sit a board of 5 people who in the last 2 years have met one time. I find it very disingenuous to put people on a board. These people want to serve. They want to be of value to their community. And there's no reason for them to meet. And I am a big fan of not calling a meeting just to meet. To me, it's a misuse and a misappropriation of resources, whether it be staff time, facilities staying open late with overhead, and it may not sound like a lot, but it adds up. And when you're meeting just to meet and you're not getting anywhere and you have no real destination, you know, it's like saying, hey, I'm gonna come over and pick you up and we're gonna go hang out and then we just drive around the block. It's like, this is my neighborhood, I've seen it. And so I think that that's a valid question, Josh, and some of those things, but, to Phil's point, we'll look at this section under section 11 and see what we really have to do, and even under the whole election thing. Because there's a lot of stuff under our elections that isn't required by law to be in here. Now, I'm gonna say, anytime, and especially in the climate that we're in right now with elections and mistrust and whether appropriately placed or not, selling election changes in a charter may be difficult.
That's council to decide.
I'm gonna push hard. I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna push hard. So be prepared.
Well, like, an important role that's described here, and whether it's dealt with elsewhere, is the appointment of election judges.
That's done through the county.
Right, I understand that now. But nowhere, anywhere else does it say we've delegated that to the counties in a coordinated election approach. So some of these items are either necessary here or are covered elsewhere, but folks should recognize, at least in an explanation of why the change is gonna be there,
Yeah,
that's the case.
and that's all part of that public outreach and education piece.
Right, I understand that.
Just knowing that we are in a climate right now where elections are a hypersensitive issue. And I'm gonna get on my soapbox for 2 minutes. Has anyone here done the tour of the election warehouse at Arapahoe County? Awesome little thing to do, right? Anyone who hasn't done it, highly recommend. Just reach out to Arapahoe County Elections. They usually do about 2 or 3 of them prior to the election. And you walk the life cycle of a ballot from the time they receive it until the time it's counted, until it's stored for retention. And for anyone who hasn't done it, there are a lot of things that are assumed by people. And then when you see every step, you go, I mean, it's very educational, eye-opening. I personally think that anyone who is of age to vote for the first time should have to go through that. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now.
All right, that was 45 seconds. Carol, go ahead.
When you're putting your list together of the responsibilities in this, deleted from the
Or defer.
charter, deferred, would you put down, for instance, in case of a tie vote?
Sure.
So if that's not required, where else would it be responded, that situation be responded to in the charter? So give us, we're gonna get rid of it, but we'll cover it over here kind of thing.
We're gonna recommend. We can't say we're gonna.
Well,
get
I
rid of it.
understand.
Dan?
My response, I made a comment that it was city council, and I didn't mean it really as a joke. I would encourage us, I see this board as we're technical. And I see us as technical. We're looking at what is the right potential answer to this and not political. Because if we start considering the political environment out there and all, then it's gonna sway us. And I think what we should do is stick to what's technical, what's legal, what makes sense to be clean, where is it taken care of elsewhere? And actually let council decide the political question. That's not, none of us are elected. And I don't want to be involved in a political debate. I want to be involved in a technical discussion.
Agreed. I was only making that comment because of when we get to educating the public about it.
Yes.
We know there could be some obstacles.
But I would love to go to council with a whole series of, this is what makes us the right way to do it.
Absolutely.
And council be able to say, that's not politically palatable, that's their discussion, not ours.
Agreed.
That's what I would just suggest for us to keep forefront.
I have one question about this. I can't find anywhere how the 5 qualified electors are selected if they're needed.
They're selected the same way any other board or commission member
Council.
is appointed. They are
Yes.
appointed by council.
Yes.
They go through the same interview process that those of you who have served or are currently serving on boards have gone through. It's a short interview process. It's an application process. It's a vocalization of a desire to serve on that committee. Although I will say in past years, it's often been, we didn't have room for you on another board. Would you consider this board? Because we really don't get a lot of people that apply for the election.
There's currently 5 people on this board. They just don't meet.
Correct.
One in the past 2 years, you said? One meeting in the past 2 years. Okay. Section 12. I have 2 parts of my question for that one. The first one is, what is the, maybe like, what is the consequence or difficulty of odd versus even? So parking lot, right, you know. And the other one, it deals with the times at the end. What is the, I see, is there a requirement for the 12 hours or,
So
can that be expanded for people who work late or second shift, you know, something like that?
and we can talk about
Right.
that, but
Just wanted to get some comments from people that know better, you know, those things. As I know that in other places where I have lived, right, like, you know, it's open till like 9 p.m., for example. It's quite late and I get it, you know, counting or all of that, but I'm just curious.
election night, it will never be open past 7 p.m. because that's the ultimate cutoff on election night. The time your ballot has to be received by, postmarks don't count,
Understood.
all of those things, but I can do that research and let you know.
Any extra questions on section 12?
Yeah, so I kind of see this section as, it almost gives council too much power to create an election that is not required to have mail-in ballots, is only one polling place and is only open for 12 hours. So that's what I kind of saw concerns with that, because it does give those
So
7 people.
initially, we have to remember, this was adopted in 59.
It was amended twice.
It's been amended a few times in different areas. As Carol said earlier, this one, the election in 2015, there were some catch-all global things that may or may not have hit each section, and sometimes it was just verbiage unifying one word throughout. So it may not really have had anything to do with the elections, but it may have been how we refer to council members or council or things like that. The thing we have to think about is when this was adopted, mail ballot elections were not a thing. That actually came out of Title 31 and the municipal election code. They were the first ones to do mail ballots, so yay, home rule. And so that's a valid point though, so that's something that we might wanna look at in section
Yeah, it seems
12.
I have a concern that an archaic law could give too much power centralized to one group.
The reason for some of this would be, if we didn't do a coordinated election with the counties and had a special election that was off cycle.
Yeah.
We may want to do it via polling locations because of cost considerations, because a mail ballot is costly.
Very spendy. Yeah.
Just to make everybody aware, it probably won't happen, and Reed, maybe you can address this. The president doesn't want any mail-in ballots. I'm just bringing it up.
We're not getting political here.
No. That's a statement.
I'm just saying it's
Line on its face.
for a discussion that it's relevant that somebody was trying to do that.
What was the comment? I didn't hear.
Well, he also doesn't have the power to interfere with state law, so.
Precedent, nation does not want, current president does not want,
Mail-in ballots.
I'm just bringing it up since we're talking about mail-in ballots.
Jump 4 levels.
Fun bit of trivia I just wanted to share because I found it and I just wanted you all to know that. In Colorado, there's some weird thing where in odd number years, elections are the first Tuesday in November. In even number years, there's the first Tuesday after the
After the
first
first
Monday. So just, they're completely different. Yeah, so just wanted to share. I thought that was interesting.
Title 31 versus Title I kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
That's where somebody in this sort of committee did put two and two together and say we should have one in the same.
yeah, one of these things is not like the other. Exactly.
Any extra questions, to research?
And I would just say that the reason that municipalities have their elections on odd years is so that all municipalities have kind of subscribed to not having partisan elections. So they haven't wanted to fall, during the state elections when we're representing or when we're electing representatives.
Based on party and.
Actually required by Colorado law.
Well, there's a 6 and 7 chance that the first Tuesday is after the first Monday, so.
Alright. Okay,
I was told there'd be no math.
section 13, registration.
So in this section, this is going to need to be judged. Or judged. Because the only time the clerk handles any level of registration is during a special election, and it's still coordinated with the counties. I don't have the right to register someone to vote. I can take their paperwork, but then it is forwarded to the counties or to the Secretary of State. But again, a lot of this was written before the ability to register online existed, those kinds of things, or before pre-registration existed. As soon as you apply for a driver's license or a state ID, regardless, if you're 15 years or older, you're registered to vote. Now at 15, you're pre-registered, right? So you're a confidential elector. You don't get ballots until you turn 18 or will be 18 on the day of the election. So a lot of this was written prior to those kinds of things happening. And so we may want to look at the language here, just so that there isn't an assumption that folks can come into my office at any time and register to vote, because that isn't a reality.
Alrighty. Section 14.
No.
Oh, yes.
This is not county specific. It just says that that's how you would register at the office of the county clerk. So if you live in Jefferson County, Douglas County, that's where you register. We don't have to say that.
Correct.
But that's known by the registered elector. Right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring it up.
Yes, good point.
Section 14, absentee registration.
Similar, my comments in section 15.
This specifically says, including the 20th day before municipal elections. Does Colorado have same day registration?
They do now. So that again has changed. And so we really kind of want to look at those and either recommend that we strike them in their entirety, or that we reword it, or something as simple as provided for in statute. Because the other thing we need to think about is every time we change the charter and we don't provide that, and we get very specific, that as soon as the statute changes, we're out of compliance. Right? So we need to be considerate of that as well. And things are always going to change in election statute. Almost every year there's something that goes forward, whether it's affecting the Constitution or campaign finance or some other level. And so we want to be very cautious about being too specific that now ties us into a requirement that we can't meet because we're now in violation of state statute. And when it comes to things like election, that's a little bit different than land use. Questions on that?
Section 15, I have a parking lot question. The relevancy of or adequacy of 50 registered electors. Given that this was adopted, back when there were not.
That's in Title 31.
Okay,
But that doesn't mean we have to stick to that.
Understood.
We could adopt something over and above. We could base it on a percentage. I will tell you 50 is very low.
that's what my first thought came.
But we also have to think about when this was written, we didn't have the population.
That's what I'm saying, like, that's what I was
Right?
going to say.
We did not have the population that we have now. Littleton was a very small town.
Mm-hmm.
We're now a medium-sized city, but still a small town in character and attitude. And so 50 seemed, that might have been, that might have been a little harder to get in 59 now.
Yeah. So I just want to
Nope.
see what maybe other municipalities have done, like, I mean, if they have increased that or have the use of percentage. I just thought, man, 50 is quite low for 45,000, well, 33,000
33,000
registered
registered
electors. I'm like, maybe a few more, 100, I don't
Well,
know.
and our numbers have gone up, so.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So do you think it should be more?
I just think that we should look at what other municipalities have done.
I'll give you a piece of information. I ran for the RTD board,
Uh-huh,
just under 200,000 people in each district,
uh-huh.
15 districts, 3 million people in the whole district. Require 250 to be certified
Right.
by the Secretary of State.
Right.
I'm just using that as an
That's-
example.
That's good. That's good
But
too.
that's roughly total population, not registered electors, roughly 1/4. 250. And that takes some time.
And there's a question that would, I'll add to the question out there, which is, might we want to tier the requirements for at-large versus district?
Okay.
Good
Does,
question.
does everyone understand what that would mean?
Yeah.
Um,
4 times the population roughly.
right.
Yeah, because in a district, that's actually.
And because we just went through redistricting, our districts are relatively evil. Elections.
New statement.
Election season, I've had nearly not enough coffee. No, they're not. Even, boy, that is gonna haunt me. Timestamp it so you can just go back and get it. But thank you for the laugh. Yeah, so they're relatively even, like within
Right.
0.5%. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
a couple of percent. But the city at large, that's a lot. And so I like that question, Philip.
That's good.
Yeah.
Start
Wanted to be
dreaming dreams.
distributed. Yeah. Would you, along the same lines as that thought process, would you want for for the number of signatures to also be representative of each district?
Well, if it's, each district is approximately same population. And all 4 districts are the at-large
Right.
folks, which then
Constituency.
ends up being a percentage. If it's the same percentage, it's gonna be a higher number.
But you're suggesting same as.
Yeah, I'm saying for the sake, so let's just say,
Yeah.
let's just say the new number is 100, I'm just gonna make this up for round numbers. In your mind, should they be equally distributed? I should have 25% from each of our 4 districts.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
So
I'm just getting it from my neighbors. Exactly, or like I have a barbecue with all my neighbors and all 75
Oh,
of them.
boy, that's a neat idea, Carrie.
Oh, I love parties, come on over.
And that certainly is a recommendation you can make. I know some municipalities have done that for at-large seats.
Okay.
Just to show that those at-large candidates are, are representing the city at large.
Mhm.
You know, they're not going to an event and getting signatures and, or walking around their neighbors or their in-laws neighborhood, right? Like where it might be one end or the other. I will say that our candidates, by and large, have done a fairly decent job of getting signatures from all, 4 districts. Maybe not in the concentration that we would like to see. But I don't know that I've ever seen one that has only gone to one district. Yeah, yeah, so I think that they do try. But certainly something,
Yeah.
I'm just curious,
In
in your vision, how that would shake out.
That was kind of underneath my thought.
Yeah, sure, okay. Lower altitude.
I was leaving it as three of other jurisdictions, where there are at-large members that have something
not
different.
off the top of my head, but I know I have seen it, and so that's some of the research I'm gonna do and.
Thank you.
And
That's
kind
all I
of,
want.
nope, it's in the parking lot, and that's information I'll get for you.
The only other thing that I would note is it would be more consistent with the rest of our charter because recalls are based on a percentage of voters and referendum initiatives, those are based on a percentage of voters. So again, it would be consistent to say a percent, I mean, maybe the percentage is 0.1%, I don't know, but.
That's fine.
Or maybe one district can't exceed 40% or something.
Oh, I just mean like in terms of getting on the ballot, like even if it's just District 3, you have to get 0.1% of registered voters in District 3.
So right now, candidates are required to get 50 valid signatures from their district or at large, to even appear on the ballot.
If the population of Littleton becomes 1 million people someday, when we're all living in sky rises, it would still be 50 people in the charter,
You
so.
did that in the lobby, like just going out to your hovercraft, right?
All right. Any extra questions? Dan?
I just put out there, is this an issue? Do we have too many candidates? Like.
I think, well, I mean, but I think that this is an equity question. Like, this is one of those, we've always done it this ways. Does that mean there's anything wrong with it? Maybe not. And we look at other options and opportunities to be more equitable. Might we decide to stay with what we have?
The research will tell us.
Yeah.
All righty.
We may decide this is not the hill we want to die on.
Let's continue. Section 16, voting.
And so this is an area where the election commission comes in. However, our charter also states that council will decide the manner of elections. And so there's a little bit of a conflict there.
Is this one where the election commission would meet and come up with their recommendation and give it to council? And then council makes the final decision?
No. No,
It's
and
direct
again,
conflict.
yeah, this goes back to when we were standalone elections
Okay.
and all of that kind of thing. So,
We may have to come back to this.
Yeah.
Would you be able to put there, like, if the language that conflicts is actually, you know,
mhm,
which one it is and how we could probably resolve this?
mhm.
Section 17, absentee voting.
And again, we kind of talked about this under absentee registration. There are provisions in state law that allow for absentee voting, specifically UOCAVA, which is Uniform, and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act. There, I got it. And that is armed services or people who live and work abroad, but they're still citizens here, they're still registered here, they vote here. There are provisions in state law that allow for them to vote absentee. They actually get their ballots earlier than average citizens do. There's a component for some of them, if they have signed up to vote electronically from where they are, so they're not mailing in a ballot. That's all done through the Secretary of State's office, so we have nothing to do there. So I don't know that this necessarily needs to live in our charter.
Billy?
I was just gonna suggest we take a break since two folks already have.
Oh, that is actually one thing that we said, if you need to go, more than welcome to go.
You're gonna talk about my favorite section on
Yeah, like, feel welcome, you know, heed, nature's call.
There's no shame.
Yeah. Section 18, I have the same, parking lot question, which is.
This is covered in state statute.
State.
Electioneering is covered in statute.
Okay, sounds good. So that will be much harder, I would assume, to go above.
And in statute, there are, there's a more defined definition of what electioneering means.
I was more towards the 100 feet than the, like, the reason why is in other places where I have lived, things have happened within 100 feet. And I would hate for that to occur in our city. So I'm just like curious as to if any other municipalities in Colorado have extended it a little bit or made other provisions that.
I don't believe so, but I can do that research for you.
That was just my.
In-person voting in Colorado is like 1%, or maybe
It's
10 or Denver.
It's actually less than 1% of in-person voting.
Fair enough.
But this also applies to ballot drop boxes.
Okay.
Right, so we do have 24-hour ballot, and they're all monitored by video surveillance 24/7. But that isn't going to stop someone when you've pulled up and got out of your car to drop your ballots from harassing you in some way. Just because it's caught on camera isn't gonna stop it. What the electioneering laws allow is for there to be some kind of ramification or consequence for that. So, but yeah, it's in-person voting is just under 1%. And some people still like to go into the ballot and that's great. I mean, that's how I voted for the first time 30 years ago.
I like to.
So, and some people like to do that, but the electioneering does encompass those drop boxes and any election offices. You know, if you're going into the county clerk's office or my office during an election cycle, that's included.
Colleen, in this section, this is a parking lot question of sorts.
19.
This, well.
We're still on 18.
18, I think. This talks a lot about council elections. It doesn't necessarily cover initiatives, whether council-based or otherwise. There's not
Well,
necessarily.
18 just covers anything on election day. So it's not specific.
I know, but it talks about nominations or how do you get your name on the ballot. It doesn't talk about initiatives or council-supported items.
Those are covered later.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
So and electioneer people who vote early, because it's not election.
Article 3, legislative body, section 19, council. All right. Yes, Ken.
It doesn't, I mean, we have 6 council members and a mayor. Not defined.
Addresses that. And specifically mentions and the mayor.
I'm sorry, can you speak up without?
I said it specifically mentions and the mayor.
Mhm.
At the end.
7 council members, 4 districts, 2 at large, 1 mayor.
Okay.
All right. Section
That was
20.
Yes, it
updated
does.
as part of 2020.
20.
That was that whole,
Section 20, districts. Yes, Bill.
So trail mark is not contiguous.
well, in the literal sense, no, it isn't, but there is a caveat in state statute for annexations and enclave communities.
Yeah,
So,
in my head, it's just like Alaska as part of the contiguous United States.
right, so just because the border isn't there,
Yeah.
it is, when it comes to elections, contiguous is interpreted as its
Adjacent.
nearest border to our nearest border, because they were annexed through the annexation.
Sure, sure.
So,
It's a
but yes,
flag.
that is something that came up during redistricting, trust me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And one of my members lives in Trailmark, so it certainly did come up.
And
It was a flagpole annexation.
it was a flagpole, and what you have to realize is the state park, for purposes of contiguous,
We're annexing that next.
for purposes of contiguous by state law, the state park is part of Littleton's boundary in this instance.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
one of those nuances.
And I know Reed was gonna speak up to that. That's why I just stepped in.
Section.
So- Sorry,
Yes.
two other quick things. So, it says approximately the same population. I mean, I don't know what the legal definition of population is. Like, do we need to, I don't know if we need to put in a number like, somebody could say, oh, plus or minus 10% is approximate. I mean, I know you just said it was like 0.5%.
So, and again, there is a, accepted definition of
Okay.
approximate, that is kind of globally applied through redistricting, whether it's at the municipal level, county level, state level, or the federal level.
The other thing that I noticed was redistricting has to be completed 3 months before the general election, and that seems,
Of which it is to become effective. Because that allows sufficient time to notify the county or counties of any new lines that have been drawn. In present day, it's giving them a new shape file from GIS to upload, that then gets uploaded to the Secretary of State's database. So they have it at the county level as well as the state level. And that gives enough time for ballots to be mailed appropriately to people who have been redistricted. It also gives enough time for us as a municipality to notify people who will be impacted.
so if the election is November 4th, as of August 3rd, we might not know where the districts are?
If you,
That's-
if you
that's
don't.
3 months in one day.
If you don't by then they can't take effect at that election. They would have to take effect at the next.
Right, but my point is like, so let's say, I don't know, July 31st, 3 months and 5 days or whatever. So we don't know what the districts are. Like, what if I mean, we have candidates who might be living on the edge of a district. Like, you have to file your paperwork to run.
So there are caveats in statute for that as well. Because of the timelines for candidacy. And we can talk about that one a little bit later, but there are caveats for that as well. Because we also, and we're less concerned about people who may be running. We're more concerned about people who are sitting on the dais,
Sure.
who may get redistricted.
Yeah, if you live 1 block inside your district.
And there's a caveat that covers that, and I can give you the verbiage for that.
Good point.
So when we just redistricted, how much ahead of the next election did it occur, just roughly?
So we actually were fortunate to finish a little bit early. And that included public comment opportunities. We had maps hung at the museum and the library and in this building, and gave people an opportunity to vote on which ones they liked the best and, you know, where they wanted to see themselves. I'd have to go back and look at those dates, but it did give us more than the required time, because we were able to.
Significant.
Yeah, we were able to send out letters to everyone who would be impacted, saying, you know, your former district was 2, you're now in 1.
I just wondered.
You're now in 3. That being said, we still had a couple of issues with districts kind of at the south end of the city, because those shape files, while they got uploaded to the county, not all of them went to the SOS. So some District 3 people got District 4 ballots, and it was less than 50, and we were able to work with the county and get those fixed really quickly. Even though during that election, we had 2 seats that were not contested, Districts 2 and 4, so the impact was minimal. But again, we want to err on the side of the voter, and we want to make sure that that voter has the opportunity to vote for everything that they are eligible to vote for, whether or not it is going to have an impact on the outcome.
All right, section 21, salaries. Very succinct, and I think what they did last time was actually good. It's fair table.
Yeah.
All right, section 22, terms.
This is an example where a proposal was made but not adopted.
Yeah, and so one of the things that we may want to look at is striking that 8 PM on the second Tuesday following the election. Because that's always going to be a regular meeting night for council. And what that 8 PM does is it either causes us to have to stretch out the beginning part of the meeting because we don't have a lot of old business, or it forces us to speed through old business so that the seated council can finish the business they started with. And so one of the recommendations on this section would be to strike that 8 PM and maybe put in some verbiage, as soon as old business is concluded, they would be seated. That way, the sitting council would have time to get through any business that is carried over, any ordinances on second reading and public hearing, because we never know how much public hearing we're gonna get. We don't know. I can tell you, January 7th, we did not anticipate almost 400 people in that room, this room, and in the hallway. We knew we'd have a lot. And so we had staff ready, but we did not anticipate that. Hopefully we wouldn't have anything that potentially controversial on an agenda on the night that we're turning council, but that timeframe. And I couldn't even speak to what the rationale was when they put that time in there. I have no clue.
No, that's fine.
So.
That was when I ran the meetings, that's why.
All righty.
Also, it's less awkward because that was the night that we also.
Well, yeah, now we do mayor pro tem only on that night. We don't do.
So is that
Still on 22,
Yes.
on that first page. It says the election, when the mayor is elected, a total of 4 council members shall be elected.
So if you think about this year, we have 2 at large, so we have the mayoral seat, we have an at-large seat, we have District 1, we have District 3.
Right.
In our next election, we'll have 3 seats because we'll have 1 at large and Districts 2 and 4. And that's how it will roll out every other year.
All it's saying is, we have 7 members, so every 2 years we elect 4, and then 2 years we elect 3.
Thank you.
It's just clarification that when the mayor is on the ballot, we're electing 4,
But he's not a council member, he's the mayor.
but he's still a council member.
Okay, that's why you've interpreted.
He's still a council
All
member.
right, that's fine.
Right. Section 23, qualifications of council members.
Any questions on that? Any questions on why it says qualified elector versus registered elector?
Like you have a story.
So, true story, I have had people call and say, we've lived in the city for 3 years, but we only recently updated our voter registration. And so they don't meet that 1-year requirement of being a registered elector. They're still a qualified elector. Anyone who is qualified to register to vote in a specific election or municipality is a qualified elector. And so that's the caveat there. You don't necessarily have to be registered. You do by the time the election rolls around, but you have to be a qualified elector.
So, I had a question about, so it says, you can't be in another elective public office, you can't be a paid employee of the city of Littleton or any other municipality. I mean, so we can't have like a, a janitor from Centennial or a gardener from Inglewood, they like, because we think they're a
The way this is
double
written-
agent or what?
Yeah, and again, I could not speak to the rationale behind why this was determined. It does not look like this section has necessarily been updated since it was adopted. And so, we can make assumptions that because municipalities were smaller then, there could have been some conflicts of interest and things like that.
McCarthyism. Right.
I mean, he threw McCarthyism around.
I will say that like in our professional association for city management, it's one of our ethical tenets that we can't hold an elected position anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if there's like the city manager of an adjacent town and then we have negotiations and back and forth and got contracts with them, that makes sense, but
Even an economic developer
Yeah.
would have conflicts of interest.
Sure.
Or a
attracting
community
businesses
development
or-
director, a city clerk, I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah, but so could, the manager at Best Buy, I mean.
Well, sure.
That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, again, it just struck me as overly broad.
Obviously do allow folks to still serve in our boards and commissions that work for cities, so chair of PC works for county and another PC member who works for the city of Denver.
Right.
But they recently chose not to appoint someone who works for another city and use that as a reason. They didn't, it is, when they were debating this, we'd rather have someone that doesn't work for a city.
Well, to flip it though, so how many employees do we have?
350, give or take.
So they couldn't serve in their, and how many of them live here, to your knowledge, in Littleton?
Probably less than 100.
So to flip it, they also couldn't serve where they live.
Correct, I could not run for city council in Lakewood.
Well, our charter justifies that, right?
Right, so I don't know what Lakewood said.
Yeah.
But-
If Lakewood had similar.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I had one other question, so,
Yeah.
you're not eligible to the office of council member if you're, I guess we kind of touched on it earlier with the redistricting, so like, if someone gets elected in 29 or 31 or whatever, and then we do redistricting with around the 2030 census, what happens if you live one block inside and then you get redistricted? I mean, you lose office the day the redistricting goes into
There
effect?
are caveats for that, and I'll get that information for you, based on the other section.
We would redistrict around for a sitting.
Yeah, but then, the maps are kind of weird for 10
Yeah.
years because of one little,
Yeah.
I mean, for one block, it probably doesn't matter.
Righty. Section 24, presiding officer.
And so this section was updated in 2020 based on the election agreement to a direct elect mayor.
Yes, Carol.
I do have a concern. The second paragraph, it talks about if a city council member wants to run for mayor, that they have to step down. And the way I'm interpreting this, they let you know that they want to run. They get to hold their seat until the election.
Correct.
But if they lose the election, they lose the seat. And I think there's a little, to me, we've had council members and recent but it's happened before the recent, where we have council members that will run for higher office and they don't have to vacate their position in order to run.
Well, but there's a reason for that. Because, and Reed, you can correct me if I'm wrong on why this was put in here. This really has to do with timing and having a vacancy on council. So,
Yeah, I mean, the rationale behind it was, having a representative council at any given moment as opposed to having one appointed for a period of a year or 2 years. I don't have a.
if they
Makes
won their
sense.
seat, if they won.
Yeah, I understand
The
that.
same
To
thing would
me-
apply in her
It
situation.
would be less,
To me, it discriminates against whoever it is that's running at the same time that the mayoral elections are running. They're the only 2 or 3 people in the entire city that are not allowed to run without losing their seat. And there's something to me that seems out of whack when we could have council members go ahead and run for higher office and leave us with a vacancy without any consequence. So
Well,
I just see
I'm,
as it being unequal.
and we can certainly discuss that as we
And
get
I have looked at 5 other city charters. That piece is not in any other charter that I've looked at.
Correct.
So I think it's worth looking at.
This was also, well, the language for mayor was amended for 2020, right? Okay, so that was the amendment. Yes, Ken?
I'm gonna agree with you. I have some major stuff, but we don't have time. It would take a half hour for me to discuss this.
And I've got it.
I'll get some, I'll email to you what it is,
Mhm.
but it's much along the line you're talking.
So I had a tangential question, which is, so this is if a district council member, or I guess an at-large member wants to run for mayor. But what happens if a district council member wants to run for at-large? I mean, do you not treat that the same way?
I think that.
Or would there be no reason for them to ever do that?
Yeah, why?
You could, in theory, run for, I guess, 6 or get elected twice and serve for 6 years
You'd still be term limited as a council member.
at 12.
Yeah.
Concurrent.
Your example could go the other way easier. If I'm an at-large candidate or a council person and my district has a
And
vacancy,
you wanna run.
I may decide I want to run for that district
Sure.
and vacate my at-large seat.
But you don't have to vacate. You only have to vacate if you're going for mayor.
Right.
Yeah,
So why isn't it a universal rule? I guess.
Leave a vacancy, same, yeah.
Right, because it still creates the vacancy and the vacancy is the problem.
Could be universal.
Yeah, it could be. So
Okay.
certainly something we can talk about.
Good observations.
Mhm.
Section 25, Mayor Pro Tem. I think this just deals with the election.
So, yeah, and they intend to do that at the first meeting following the election. And that happens every 2 years, whether the mayor's being elected or not, every 2 years. The council as a body nominates and elects a person.
It doesn't have time.
It did in the previous.
I know that, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have the timing on this, so it doesn't.
And we could just refer back to the other section.
You know?
You're saying whether they elect a mayor pro tem before or after the new council is seated 2 weeks after the election?
Right.
So we could refer back to the other section, or we can add verbiage here.
Section 26, oath of office. Don't think we want to touch that one. Section 27, council meetings.
Oh, I actually did have a question about
Okay.
that.
About the oath,
There you go, Tams.
Yeah.
if you want to take one right now, you can read right hand.
Do we actually ask people to verify that they have read these documents?
So what the oath says is that they affirm to support the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the State of Colorado, and the Charter and the ordinances of the City of Littleton. That is the verbiage.
They don't have to read it.
That's gonna take a long time. I mean, and I can almost guarantee you that anyone who gives an oath like that, whether it's a municipality, a court, when you take an oath in court, when you're testifying, they don't confirm that you have read it. I mean, that's. Yeah,
Every city employee takes this oath as well.
yes. Even our seasonals.
And when I swore my oath in the Marine Corps, you know, I may or may not have read the Constitution before I swore an oath to protect it, defend it.
Mhm. Yeah, every employee takes one seasonals and then,
I'm taking one, we just kind of just
I raised my hand.
well,
She swore.
yeah, I like to say I swear at people. My deputy swears people in, I swear at them.
All right. Section 27, council meetings, open and executive sessions. I think there may be comments or discussion on this.
And this one might get me.
Um, I don't think we have the time to discuss this one. I think this one will be one to send the questions in. And if you want any general comment right now, that's fine, but if you have very specific questions, since it has a lot of provision. Yeah, let's just send them to Colleen, then we can all kind of like review them after that.
We are coming up on 2 hours and 20 minutes, so we could
Yes,
also
it's coming,
adjourn and
coming close.
next time, if you'd like.
Any general comments on that? Okay.
Do we want to move on or do we want?
I think
to-
well, since we could close with this one just to understand it, if there are any points of understanding, and then we would start the
Pick
next
up
one
with-
at
with-
section 28, 20.
Which is
yeah,
vacancies.
Yeah.
How many more sections? We really don't have a lot of meaty sections left under this article.
Clerk of the council, section 31.
That's important.
Should we try to get through 33?
Well, that's what I was thinking, if we can get through the rest of elections, just
And
knowing
then
that,
come back.
that y'all are gonna look at 27 executive sessions and then send in questions, concerns, observations. So we can start our next meeting with just that piece and then move on from there.
Is that fair?
Are we, yes.
Sure.
Okay, consensus? Okay,
So Section 28,
vacancies.
vacancies.
27 changed.
And so this speaks to how vacancies on council are filled. Should a seat become vacant, either someone is elected to a higher office, which we had happen with our council earlier this year. We may have a resignation due to circumstances that have someone moving out of their district or out of the city entirely.
Or health reasons.
And yeah, health reasons happen, or just, this is not what I signed up for. I'm gonna get my job back. And that has happened as well. Not something to be taken lightly. And so this just speaks to how those vacancies are filled outside of an election. Like, we're not gonna hold a special election to elect someone to that seat. Would have to go through a process to advertise, interview, appoint, and then onboard for the remainder of that term. Questions?
This doesn't cover, or there used to be this provision that if after 60 days, there would be an appointment normally, the county could step in and actually appoint. This doesn't mention that time frame or anything.
Why would we want the county to appoint someone to a municipal
I
board?
don't know why that was there.
It's not now. And let's not put it back.
No, I don't want to. It was, it was my note.
Are there
Section,
any questions, comments on 28 on vacancies, how that's done?
Have we ever had 3 or more vacancies simultaneously?
Not in my tenure. I would look to people who have been in Littleton a lot longer than I have. Has there ever been more than 3 vacancies at a time on council that you could remember? The answer is no. And
Section-
Carol, you've been here how long?
Since 1963.
There you go.
So there's still time, Billy.
section 29, council membership rules. Section 30,
Is this the one that
section 29.
conflicts with the previous one? That the council should be the deputy?
No. No, this is just saying that, of its own members. So the only thing that they nominate is their mayor pro tem.
Section 30, powers. Section 31, clerk of the council.
And so in our municipality, I'm an appointed clerk. I'm not an elected clerk. Some municipalities do have the clerk as an elected position.
Let's do that.
Let's consider it.
Right after the city attorney.
Yeah, I'm getting old, so retirement sounds good.
I'll vote for you.
And there are pros and cons. Generally, appointed clerks tend to have a longer tenure. Elected clerks,
Not short.
well, and you, there is a lot of knowledge that you gain as a clerk over the years. And when you're elected and you have a shorter term, still an option. Just put it out there.
Are there any limits, like once you're appointed and approved by council? Is that just no limits, like you could be here until you decide to leave?
No, so. And I don't know how much we want to get into this, but, all members of the leadership team, and the clerk is considered a member of the leadership team as a department director. We enter into our employment by agreement, and there are caveats in that agreement. We all are basically at-will employees. So if I am derelict in my duties, if, you know, council just decides they don't like me anymore, they don't want to work with me, we get a new council, they might decide I'm too outspoken or whatever, because God knows I got no filter, and when I do put one in, there's subtitles all over my face, so, you don't want them to know that. It's not like a tenured position, right? Like, I'm not gonna get tenure because I've been here for a certain amount of time. I can still be dismissed at any time.
So, and council has the ability to
Council,
dismiss.
no, council
Council does
cannot
not.
dismiss me.
Oh, okay.
No, no,
Okay.
they cannot dismiss me. They can direct the city manager or the deputy city manager. They can say we have concerns, but they can't say get rid of her.
They can't say get rid of me either.
Yeah, there would be
They can say get rid of him.
because he's directly,
City manager can't get rid of me.
yeah. Council can get rid of the judge, the city attorney, and the city manager.
Those three, that's it.
Those three, that's it. Other than that, they can certainly say to their direct appointee as the city manager, we are displeased.
They can say, if you want to keep your job, you got to get rid of somebody.
They can say we're displeased and this is why. And then any number of things can happen from there. There can be a conversation. I can say, you know what? I'm out. I don't want to play anymore. Or they can ask me to tap out. I can be put on a performance plan. I mean, there's a lot of things. So even though I'm appointed, I am not above anything that is expected of any of us.
Okay. Section 32, council not to interfere with administrative service.
Mhm.
I have a question, not as much on this section, but it basically says council doesn't get involved in administrative services, but that's only one section. There's also the municipal court.
The judicial.
Services and the judicial side. And I don't think Reed wants the council to get involved with his staff either. So I think that we should consider this more globally to say, other than the direct reports, your hands off.
Well, and again, I think we have to think about when this was initially drafted. And we probably did not have our own municipal court. We didn't have the city attorney. They were by contract. And so that's certainly something that we consider adding language to. Carol, you had a
Well,
question?
this is,
Question, comment?
not so much maybe goes in the charter, or maybe it does, I don't know. When you have things like this without a consequence, if we had a council person who was interfering, how does that play out?
Yeah, that's the other question.
Is there a penalty?
No, there isn't. That's the problem.
Okay.
Reed, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, and Phil and I kind of talked a little bit about this before. I mean, we talked about the idea of a public censure, if you will. I know that council has considered that over the years for various reasons. There's nothing, well, I guess we do have something in our protocols that talk
And
about
standards of conduct, yeah.
standards and protocols, and there is an ability to censure But I don't know if it's kind of that, just that slap on the hand done publicly. Council.
Yeah, I think when they were having that conversation, from my recollection, there was a hesitancy to be too descriptive about what that censure would look like and what any potential consequence might be. But that is covered in their standards of conduct and protocols. I don't know that the charter is the place for that. But certainly something to think about. Yeah.
To me, it's very important. And I know that we've had council members that have stepped over this line.
And, you know, maybe in addition to broadening this section to include kind of all of the arms of our government, right? The judicial and the other pieces of it, as well as the administrative, that there be some verbiage that might hint to a consequence without actually defining it, because then again, that would be done by policy. That would have to be done by adopting some kind of policy with the council itself.
Unless it's in the charter.
But again, we need to be careful about what we're putting in the
Yeah, I
charter.
understand.
Because some things may not be enforceable. Just because we put them in the charter does not mean they are legally enforceable.
So-
Like we could say, we want to put something in the charter that says every Tuesday night when council meets, the mayor has to wear a straw hat and everybody else has to wear pink shirts. And if we put it in the charter, are we going to enforce that? Is that legally enforceable? No. But it's in the charter. So we have to be careful. And I mean, that's the extreme, but.
I'm getting back, section 2 is the form of government, we're a council manager form of government, right? This conversation starts to bleed away from that, is that correct?
No, not necessarily. The form of government is council, city manager, council form of government. This really has to do with the hierarchy. You know, again, we talked about council has 3 direct reports. They have a city manager, they have an attorney, they have a municipal judge. That is really their, the extent of their level of interaction or should be. That doesn't mean they can't come and talk to us about things and ask us questions. They can't direct us in the conduct of our jobs. And so this has less to do with the form of government and more to do with what happens if you step outside the boundaries.
So Carol, you're talking about the actual council members stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. If you've got
Yes.
a council member
Yes,
that's
what
interfering,
happens?
then you've got one council member influencing how government works rather than the 7.
Right.
Is there a employee policy, for if that does happen, that you would follow?
There is, certainly conversation and direction from the city manager's office, on how we interact with council and when those questions should be directed straight to the city manager's office for handling, just to kind of keep us out of hot water. You know, my role is a little different because I do serve as clerk to council, so they do feel a little bit, more comfortable coming to me and maybe asking for something that they might not ask another director for. But I serve in 2 capacities, right? I am their clerk, but I'm also the city clerk. And so there's a little bit of a gray area there. Certainly if I was ever asked to do something that I felt bordered on inappropriate or something that made me feel uncomfortable with my personal and professional integrity, I would speak up and I would certainly go to the city manager's office. I'd go to Mike, he's my direct supervisor. I'd go to Jim. Again, I don't have a problem I have a problem keeping my mouth shut. I don't have a problem voicing issues and concerns.
Is there like a policy that's understood in all employees though? Like if there's a janitor that one of the council members making come to their house and clean, like, you know, like where does that?
We would hope that's not happening.
Yeah, but like, is
You know,
there,
it's
We
kind of-
try
Yeah.
But I think that this is something that we need to reiterate regularly, you know, help them understand. Because it is, you do get to, we should be pleasant and courteous to each other. And because that courtesy extends, some council members will then start to develop a relationship with an employee. And then they'll start to ask them questions, try to gain information, which they should, but the city manager should be looped into that. So that shouldn't be outside the city manager. So anything, so to your point, can you come over and perform work on my property or person, whatever, that would be, you know, horrible. And we'd like any employee to be aware that that's not acceptable.
It's kind of been,
And there's other reasons for that. One is with the administrative services, there's the municipal court and there's the city attorney's office. The council member gets involved and thinks they can actually direct behavior, like telling a judge how to rule in a particular court case. Or they're asking a question or directing someone to do something outside of their job responsibilities. Or interface with a citizen where they're promising something or they're misrepresenting themselves as a city officer, of which they're not. They're a city council member. They're not a city officer. It can create liability on the part of the city.
Okay, final section, with your permission. You give me 2 more minutes, I will remind you some things and then we will be over. Section 33, annual independent audit. I think that's a good thing, we should keep it there.
it does happen.
Yeah.
It
no,
is
it's a good thing.
reported to council in a public meeting and all of those things.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today. I want to remind you of our next meeting, September 18th. If you have not provided your sheets where you sign, please do so to Colleen.
You can also scan them and email them to me, that's fine too.
Perfect too. And if you want to allow her to share information with us, you can do that as well, so that we can have the information and remind you next time. We're going to try to especially, you know, encourage those members who were not here this time to be able to come, you know, so that we can continue this conversation. And we got through a lot. And 2 more things in section, Article 4, which, you know, and then the meaty section of Article 3, that's what we're going to resume.
Yeah, so I think, yeah. Good.
And then, as we mentioned earlier, looking to have a 4th meeting either later in October or early November. And then at least our initial discussions was taking the month of December off, which has lots of holidays in it. And without mentioning any specific, but then getting us back into January through April, actually coming up with recommendations and suggestions at that point in time.
Yeah. All righty. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, let's see what I can.
We're gonna have a